Okay, y'all, I am back. It's Queen Renee again. This is part three of how I met and married and what happened in my marriage. So sorry for the interruption. Just I guess it's something going on with my significant other right now, and then in the other room. But anyway, so as I was saying, uh, he was there was this particular female that he went to church with, and he always wanted try to get me to be her friend. And I'm usually a very friendly person. Like, I don't ever meet people and be like, I don't like her, or I don't like him, or what have you. But this particular female, when I met her, I it was something about her that I just did not care for. And he tried his hardest to get me to be friends with this woman. And I was like, I don't want to be her friend. And I never said that about anyone that I ever met in my life. Just flat out, I I don't want to be her friend. Um and I kept telling him, he was like, um you need more friends, and I was like, no, I don't. I'm fine. I don't need any more friends. I'm I'm really good. So she would try to talk to me, and she would try to befriend me. Um, Talking about, oh, we can go we can go work out together, because he had told her that I was gonna have gastric bypass. And he had tried to talk me out of it um, for months leading up to when I had my gastric bypass. And she was like, "Oh, we can go work out. We can do this and that." And I was like, "I don't want to go work out with this lady because I don't even like this girl." And so ended up when I did get ready to have my gastric bypass, he had asked her to watch our children, um, while I was in the hospital, because I had to be in the hospital for like 5 days. And so, babe, I'm recording. And then, so he had asked her to watch the children while I was in the hospital, and she did. And then, I actually ended up going back into the hospital um, afterwards. I had went back into the hospital, and I had another like stay in the hospital like 5 days or so, and I think she watched the kids that time too. And yeah, now I need to back up and tell you guys this one. So at one point before I had my gastric bypass, I had developed type 2 diabetes. And so um, I was on pills, um, metformin, and I had gotten really, really sick And so I had actually went into ketoacidosis. And so if any of you know what that is, or have any experience with anyone that has had that, you'll know. I'm gonna put this back on because I don't like my hair right now and I can't wet it right now. So um what that is when your blood starts to turn to acid. So um I I was going into a diabetic coma, and for over a week, I would say for over a week, I walked around my house. Um, for a while, it was I just laid in bed and I didn't move. I didn't eat or drink or anything. I just got up to go to the bathroom. At one point, I remember being like so sick, and I'd never felt like that in my life. And I remember going and telling him, saying, I was like, you know, I'm I'm really, really sick, and I really think I need to go to the hospital. And he just looked at me, and he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me like I was insane, like I was crazy. And I remember thinking in my head, maybe he didn't hear me. Now, I was going into a diabetic coma. So at the time, I wasn't thinking clearly. I can remember a lot of what transpired. Um, but as when I think back on it, I was like, wow, my thought processes in my brain, my, my mind was just not clicking. Things weren't right. So I remember thinking to myself, he must have didn't hear me. And maybe I should say it again. So I said it again and I said, I I really think I really think I'm really sick, and I think I need to go to the hospital. He still he never says nothing. He just looks at me like I'm crazy. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I guess he's not going to take me. So I guess I'll go back and lay down. I'll go back to bed. And I remember walking, it had took me forever to walk down the hall in the first place, because every couple of steps that I would take, I would have to stop and rest to catch my breath because I could hardly breathe. Um, and I was just so weak and so out of it. And I remember as I was walking back to my bedroom, and I was like, well, I guess I'll go back to bed, because if he's not going to take me, because I can't drive myself, because I can hardly see, because at this point I was losing my eyesight. I was like, I can hardly see, so I'm not going to be able to drive myself. So I guess I'll lay back down. So I went back to bed. Now, after I went back to bed, I don't really recall what happened. I just know that for days I was walking around like I all I had on was underwear, was my panties. And I ended up in my basement. I don't remember how I got down there. I don't remember why I was down there and what I was doing. All I remember is being in the basement, and I remember there was this pallet or something that somebody had made in the corner, probably one of the kids had made in the corner, was like these covers and pillows and stuff. And I was like, oh, that looks comfortable. And I laid down on it, and I ended up staying down there for a couple of days. And I could remember that I would only wake up. I remember waking up a couple of times when I was down there to my son, my oldest son. I could hear him come in the front door. And I remember him asking my husband, "Where's my mom?" And I remember him telling my son, "Mom's not feeling well. She's sleeping or whatever, and don't bother her. Just stay up here, don't bother her." So no one came downstairs to check on me or anything. I was just down there for a couple days. So then I can't tell you how I ended up back upstairs, but I remember getting upstairs and going back into my bed. And one night my dad ended up calling me, and he's like, and my dad never really called me much. It was just very, very rare for my dad to call. And my dad called me, and my dad said, um, I answered my phone. I answered the phone, and he said, "Hey, I was just you just been on my mind, and I was calling to check on you." And I was like, oh, "Okay." And he's like listening to me. He's like, "Regina, are you okay?" And I was like, "No, you know, I don't feel very well." And he was like, "What is wrong with you?" He was like, "You sound awful." And I was like, "I don't know." He's like, "Have you been taking your medication and stuff?" And I said, "Every time I do." I was like, "Yeah, but every time I do, it makes me feel really, really, really sick. So I can't take it because it just makes me so sick." And he said, "Well, don't take no more. Just tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning, I want you to call your doctor." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, what? Okay, I'll do that." And he said, he was like, "For real, first thing in the morning, I want you to call your doctor." And I said, "Okay, I will." So the next morning, when I did wake up, I called my doctor, and being that my doctor is a doctor, he actually did not get back to me until um the end of the day. So he called me, and he's like, "Hey, Regina, girl, what's going on?" And I was like, "John, something's wrong." And I said, I don't feel right." And he's like, all of a sudden, he's like, "Regina, what is going on over there?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't feel right." And he was like, "Oh my God." And he's like, "You, I need you to get to this clinic right now." And he said, "Regina, are you listening to me?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You're dying." And I said, "What?" And he said, "You're going into ketoacidosis. You're literally dying." And I said, and it really didn't register to me what he was saying. And he said, "I need you to get to this clinic." And I said, "Okay, when you want me to come?" And he said, "Right now, I need you to get your husband, and I need you to tell him to bring you to the clinic right now." And I said, "Okay." So now I went to him, and I told him, I said, "I just got off talked to John, and John said that he needs me at the clinic right now. And he's like, he wants me there now. So he's like, oh, okay. So then he drives me over to the clinic. When we get to the clinic, they're continuing to take my blood sugar, and every time they would take my blood sugar, it wouldn't register. Now, those machines go up to 650 blood sugar um, meter, and it wouldn't register. It just kept saying high, 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 high every time they would check it. And they were like, we can't do nothing with her here. You need to take her to the ER, and you need to take her now. So he drove me around the corner and up the street to the ER. When we get to the ER, um, when we get to the ER says they have no beds. They're like, we have to admit her. Um, we're not gonna release her to go home because we can't even get a reading on her blood sugar. So we're going to admit her, but we just don't have any beds right now. So you guys will have to wait. So I had to wait in the emergency room for hours. Like we were there for hours. And every 30 minutes or so they would come and they would check my blood sugar again, and then they would shoot me up again with insulin. They just was shooting insulin like left and right, trying to get my blood sugars to come down, and they wouldn't. So the last thing I remember that night was I remember them saying I had been laying on a couch in the waiting area, um kind of nodding in and out all night, and then they were like, okay, well, we got a bed for her, and we're about to take her upstairs. So I remember getting on the little gurney thing and them pushing me down the hallway, and we were like at the elevators. That's the last thing I remember, is we were about to get on the elevator to go upstairs. The next thing that I remember is like waking up and looking around like, the heck? And a nurse came in and she was like, oh, you're awake. And I was like, yeah. And I said, how long have I been here? And she said, oh, sweetie, you've been here for 5 days. And I'm like, 5 days? She's like, yeah, you've been here for 5 days. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So I remember getting so angry. I was so angry with my mom because I was like, in my mind, I was thinking, I've been in this hospital for 5 days and my mother hasn't even called to check on me or nothing. So I called my mom and I was so mad. And I was like, you haven't even called to check on me or nothing. And my mom was like, okay, was I supposed to? What? What's going on? Because, like, we don't talk all the time. We're not like me and her, we're not like me and my daughter. Me and my daughter talk all the time. But, like, it may be months and months before, I talk to my mom on the phone. So she was like, was I supposed to? What's going on? And I said, I would think that you would want to check on me and see how I'm doing. I've been in the hospital for 5 days. And she said, what you mean you've been in the hospital for 5 days? And I said, the nurse said that I've been here for 5 days. And she said, I didn't even know you were in the hospital. What are you doing? Why are you in the hospital? And I said, they couldn't get my blood sugars to go down. And apparently I've been in a diabetic coma for like 5 days. And she's like, he didn't call me and tell me nothing. And I said, are you serious? And she's like, yeah, he hasn't called me to tell me nothing. So I remember saying, okay. And my mom was like, well, I tell you what, if they don't get them sugars under control, um, I'm on my way. So I had told him at some point, I don't think I was in like a coma. I don't even know really what it was, because I do remember when I called him and I told him, I said, I've been asking you to bring me underwear, and I'm still in the same underwear that I was in when I got here. Why I didn't take them off? I was loopy, and I was like, I take a shower and I had to put the same funky underwear back on. Um, and you won't bring me any clean underwear, and you haven't brought my kids here to see me. Like, he hadn't been to see me. He hadn't brought the kids to see me, or nothing. I was just there by myself. So I was like, and my mom is mad. And I had talked to my sister because my mom had called my sister, and my sister had called me. And my sister was like, what's going on there? And I told her what was going on. And she was like, well, I tell you what, he had better hope that mom can come there, and I don't have to get off my job and come there, because if I have to get off my job, I don't have any time left. But if I have to come up off my job, I'm gonna lose my job, and he ain't gonna want to see me, because I believe he needs a stern talking to. So my sister's stern talking to you really don't want. But anyway, so I was like, oh, okay. So I told him, I said, um, you're in trouble. And he said, for what? And I said, my mom is mad and my sister is mad at you because you didn't call them and tell them I was in the hospital. Nobody knew I was here. You haven't brought my kids. You haven't brought me no underwear, nothing. So he was like, oh, I'm gonna bring you some underwear and da 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 da. So I had talked to my mom later, and actually I talked to my dad later, and my dad was like, oh, your mom is on her way. And I was like, I just talked to her a couple hours ago. What do you mean she's on her way? And he said, as soon as she got off the phone with you, she called her job and told them she didn't know when she'd be back. That that her daughter's in the hospital and she's got to get to Minnesota. He was like, she left maybe an hour or so ago and she's on her way. And I was like, this lady, she said if they didn't get it down, she was going to wait and see, but she didn't wait and see. She just called her job and told them she was out of there. So my mom was on her way, and he knew my mom was on her way. So he was like rushing around trying to bring me stuff to the hospital, um, before my mom got there and all this kind of foolishness. So anyway, my mom gets there. Um, the It was another a doctor lady that came in to check me or something, and she was saying to me, she was like, you know, you you were you were a day away from death. Um, and I was like, excuse me. And the way she was talking to me, it was just really like ticking me off because I still wasn't in my right mind yet. But I was coming back. But she was like, and she was talking to me real greasy, like I was stupid. And she was like, if you'd have laid in that bed, if you'd have laid there at your house one more night, we wouldn't be having this conversation because you would be dead. And I can't believe you would just lay there and you were almost dead and before you got here. And I was like, but I'm not. So I'm gonna need you to go now and get away from me. So anyway, I say all of this to say that that man knew that I was sick. That man heard me say I was sick and asked him to take me to the hospital, and he did nothing. The only time that he reacted was because I told him that John said that he needed me to get to the hospital. And I believe that had it not been for the fact that my father called me and told me to call John, which was my doctor at the time, and tell him what was going on, that I would not be here talking to you all right now. Because he literally was about to let me die. Um, so fast forwarding back to the gastric bypass. I had the gastric bypass. I end up having to go back into the hospital due to the gastric bypass, and he had this lady, I think, watch my kids again, the lady that I told you that he went to church with, and apparently she was supposedly his best friend. I had an inkling that they were sleeping together, that they were having an affair, um, due to some phone calls. Um, on my At that time we had cell phones that were attached to our home phones, and those were those bills were in my name. So his cell phone, my cell phone, and my house phone was in my name. So um I would get the bill. And when I would get the bill, my little sheet would be really like thin. My little that was attached to my phone number. His would be like thick, like a book, like thick. Because he would have so many calls on that phone in the month. And as I was looking through the phone bill, the same phone number over and over and over and over and over and over again. Same number. And he would be on that number, on that phone with that number 30, 40, an hour, 2 hours, long calls. And you would see my number come in every once in a while. And it'd be a 2, 3, 4 minute call. No more than 5 every time. It would be a quick phone call in, and that's it. But whenever that other number was on there, he'd be on the phone with this person for a long time. And it'd be like all throughout the day, just all day long. They calling back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I was like, okay, this number is all over this phone bill. I found out that it was her phone number. So I was like, I bet not see this woman's number on my phone, on this phone bill, not near another time. She's just my friend. She's my best friend. Um, she gives me relationship advice when I'm going through me and you having issues or whatever, and I give her relationship advices about her and her boyfriend, this, that, and the other. I do not care about any of that. I better not find that. Better not see this chick's phone number on my bill. Not another time. So stop seeing her number all on the phone and everything. I end up going to my mother's house um for, I can't remember, it was for some vacation for something. At that time I used to go to my mom's house every 6 months. I used to go visit my parents. And so um I'm at my mom's house and I'm sitting in the den watching TV with my mom, and my phone rings. And when my phone rings, I look at the number, and it's her number because I know that number. It's her number. And I'm like, why is this heifer calling my phone? Now, back then, we with the when the phones, I had my phone set up, I had my cell phone set up to where if my house phone rings, if someone calls my house phone and I don't answer, it will roll over to my phone. So when I picked up the phone, I said hello. She doesn't say anything. I'm like, hello, hello, hello. She don't say nothing. She hang up the phone. So when she hangs up the phone, I'm like, oh, this broad thought she was calling my house number because I'm not there. So I call him because I'm like seething. I'm so mad. And I'm like, I'm telling my mom, oh, it's about to go down. I'm going to kill him and I'm going to kill her. And my mom was like, no, don't be like that. Don't talk like that. I said, nope, because I done told him about this broad. I'm going to kill him and then I'm going to kill her. So I called my house. When I called my house, back then you could hear when somebody clicks over from another call to take your call. So when I called and he clicked over, I knew he was on the phone with her. And I said, so you sitting up in my house talking to her on the phone? And he was like, uh, 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 nothing. Didn't I tell you stop talking? Don't have that woman calling my house, calling my numbers, my phones. I said, and she'll never call my house number. But as soon as I'm out of town, she's calling my house number. Cause you there by yourself. It ain't like that, baby. It ain't like that. Da 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 da. Yeah. Well, I tell you what's gonna happen. When I get back, I'll be home tomorrow. When I get back, I'm gonna kill you, and I'm gonna kill her. It ain't like that, Regina. I swear to God, it's not like that. I said, well, why she didn't say nothing when she heard my voice? Why she ain't say nothing? Why she hang up? Cause she got scared. Scared for what? If y'all ain't doing nothing, what she got to be scared for? It ain't like because she know you don't like her. Da 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 da. I don't like her for a reason. I don't like her for a reason. Cause I know she's sleeping with my husband. No, I'm not. I'm not sleeping with her. Blah blah blah. Okay. Fast forward. So we go on. We stay together because I at this time I'm not thinking. I'm like I'm not. I didn't get married to get a divorce, and I can stick. I can deal with this. So I had got to the point in my marriage where I I knew he was cheating. I knew he was seeing other women and carrying on, and I got to the point where I didn't care. Um, I was like, I'm good. I don't care if he's cheating because as long as he's dealing with these other females and things, as long as she continue to do her job, I don't have to sleep with him, and I don't have to be bothered with him. So, um, by this time, I didn't work because after I had my son and I got let go. They said I voluntarily resigned my position because I couldn't come back to work after my 6 weeks of maternity leave. Um, well, before my 6 weeks of maternity leave was up, they wanted to give me 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, they wanted me to come back to work, and I couldn't. So, um, I was gonna get another job, and he was like, we talked about this and da 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 da, and I don't want you to work. I want you to you're gonna stay at home with the kids until at least until um our baby boy goes to kindergarten. And I was like, we talked about it, but we didn't make come to no agreement on that. And he was like, I thought we did have an agreement, blah blah blah. So I was like, okay, to keep down a whole bunch of mess, I didn't get a job. So I didn't work. I was a stay-at-home mom. And at the point when I was first staying at home, it became to be like this really awful relationship. And it was an awful time for me because I went through like really deep depression. I contemplated suicide a couple of times, and I remember one day my son was like crying really bad, and I had some really bad thoughts, and I was like, you know what? You're losing it. You need to, you got to come up out of here. You got to get some help. So I started seeing a therapist. And when he found out I was seeing a therapist, he was not happy about that. He was like, you don't need no medication. You just need to pray and da 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 da. But he had me trapped in the house with the kids. He would leave early in the morning because he worked days. He would leave early in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning every day, and he wouldn't return most days until about 12, 1 o'clock in the morning the next day, um, because he had to drive the church. He had to pick up the saints for church and drive the church van and all of this. So he'd be out all night, or he had to go clean the church, or he got to clean the pool. He got to do it was always something as to him being in the streets all the time and never being at home with me and the kids. So it was just me all the time with the kids. And he even at one point he allowed my car to get repossessed, which I had that car before I had my son, when I was still working. But then he didn't want me to work. So then uh, after all my unemployment and everything had ran out, he wouldn't pay my car note, which he could have paid because he had a job and plus he was in the National Guards. So, but he didn't. He didn't pay my car note. He got my let my car get repossessed on purpose because he didn't want me to have it. He had me absolutely trapped in the house all the time with the kids. Um, with no adult conversation, like, because he was never home. So I just went through a really bad time, and that's when I had packed on. I had got up to the 336 and decided, I would go ahead and have this gastric bypass done and try to get rid of some of this weight and work on myself. And then when I started losing the weight and I was getting down, and I mean, I had a pretty decent life financially because, like, he worked. I'd never taken him off of child support for my first daughter, for our first child. He even after we got married, he still paid child support every pay period. So every month I would get a $382 check from him for child support. And at one point he had asked me, he said, "Well, don't you think that you should take me off of child support since we married?" And I was like, "You know what? That don't make no sense." I was like, "Because if I take you off of child support, it's going to take uh weeks before, um, like it'll be a month or so before I'll get the money back, and we need the money now. So, um, so we just need to just leave it like it is, which he did. He didn't even make no stink about it, and he never asked me for none of the money or nothing. He just be like, um, I just get it. When I get it, I spent it the way I wanted to. He never asked me to pay no bills with it or nothing. I just spent it on me. Um, by that time, um, losing the weight and stuff, and things just were working out pretty good for me financially, and I was getting my mind back together. Um, so then, after after all of that, there was one particular time. So now I'm finna get into what transpired to end our marriage. So one night we were my best friend was coming to spend the weekend. Her and my goddaughter were coming over to spend the weekend. So I had spent the day, like cleaning and stuff before she got there, and everything. And when they got there, he wasn't he wasn't there. He wasn't there. No, cause he had went to church. I think he had went to church, and I had our vehicle, and I had went and picked her up. So when I went and picked her up that night, so this was on a Friday. Was it Friday? I think it was on Friday or Saturday. No, it was on Friday. Um, and then Saturday morning, like that night, um, I think it was Saturday. Anyway, he comes in and he throws, like, he's going through the mail and he's just like throwing it on the floor. And I'm just looking at him like, what the heck is wrong? Why is he doing that? So he's throwing this mail on the floor. And then I said, so you just gonna throw the mail on the floor? And he was like, yeah. And so I was like, all right, cool. So I ain't say nothing else. And my girlfriend's looking at me like, really? You ain't gonna say nothing else? Ain't say nothing else. So we had ordered pizza we had pizza that night, and then he was in the kitchen and he poured some soda in like one of them little tumblers that you get from SA, from the gas station, and it had a crack. I guess it had cracked, and so the pop was spilling out of it. And I hear him curse really loud, and he takes the cup and just throws it upside the wall, and you can hear it just go like hit the wall. And I'm like, this dude is really tripping. So my girl is like, you ain't finna say nothing to him? And I said, no. I said, nope, I'm not finna say nothing to him. And she was like, what is wrong with you? Because she knows I will snap off. I will go haywire. And I said, I have come to the realization that I will choose my battles. And this is one I don't want to fight, that I don't feel like fighting. So later on that night, um, when we go to bed, we're in the bed, and then he knocked over a glass of Kool-Aid or something onto the floor, and he didn't move to get it up. And I said, "So you ain't even gonna clean that up, huh?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, okay. I turned over and went to sleep. I didn't say anything. So the next day, it would have been Sunday. So then he gets up and he's like, "I need you to get up and take me to church so I can go get the church van or whatever." And I was like, "All right." He was like, "And I'll be back to come get Ty for church." And I said, "She's not going to church today." And he was like, "What do you mean she ain't going to church today?" I said, "Just what I said. She's not going to church today." I said, "You knew she had company yesterday. You knew that my goddaughter was here all day yesterday. You took her with you to take her to choir rehearsal, and you didn't bring her back. You took her early in the morning at like 11, 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. You didn't come back until like 7 o'clock last night. You had her out all day, and she was here by herself waiting on her all day." I said, "So they're going to spend the day together, so she's not going to church." So he's like getting mad. He's like, uh, "She had to go to church, and the pastor said if she don't go to church, she ain't gonna be able to dance in the praise on the praise team, and she ain't gonna be able to be in the choir." And I was like, "Look here, man. That man don't run nothing in this house." I was like, the thing about it is, I said, "So what you saying to me is I can't never take her to church with me? It's just always gotta be at your church? She can't never go to church with me when I feel like going to church. It's just she gotta go to your church all the time." I said, "That is not how it works. She ain't going to church today, like I said." So he was like, "Well, get up and take me to church." Fine, whatever. So I take him to church, drop him off, come back to the house. Me and my girlfriend at the house all day, chilling. So he comes home and he pulls in the driveway and he's sitting in the driveway. This is like after morning service, and he's sitting in the driveway, but he never gets out of the van. So I don't even know why he came back to the house. But he never got out, he never came in the house or nothing. So he ends up, after he sit out in the church van for like an hour or so, he gets turns around and goes back to church. So he came after he had dropped off all the people out of, from the church or whatever, and he had came in and he said he was just being real nasty, and he was like, "I'm finna take the church van back to the church and drop it off. Come pick me up whenever you get ready." And I was like, "All right, fine." So he leaves. I tell my girl, I said, "Well, let me go ahead and take you home so I can go and pick him up." I go to the church to pick him up. He's not there. So I'm sitting outside in my car, and I'm waiting on him. And I sat there so long until I had to go to the bathroom. And by this time it's like 12:30, almost 1 o'clock in the morning. So I go I go down the street to the gas station to use the bathroom, and I went and used the bathroom, and then when I came out, I used the payphone because I didn't have for some reason I didn't have my phone I didn't have a cell phone at that time. I don't know why. I can't remember why. But I called my girlfriend and I was like, this fool ain't even here. And she was like, you been out there that long? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, and he ain't there. And I said, no. And she said, you ain't got no business out there waiting on him in the dark at this time of the night. Go home. And I said, I can't just leave him. And she said, yes, you can. And I said, I can't just leave him. Um, I'm gonna go back down here and I'm gonna give him another 20 minutes. And if he don't show up, then I'll go home. So when I get down there, I see he's there and I pull up and I'm waiting like for him to come get out of the car, get out of the van. And he doesn't get out of the van. He's just sitting there for like a good 20 minutes. He just sat there. He finally gets out of the van and he comes and gets in the car with me. And so I was like, so where did you go? And he said, I went for a ride. And I said, okay. I was like, so I was just supposed to sit here and wait for you while you went for a ride? And he was like, yeah. So at this point, I'm pissed. I'm mad. So I was like, F you too. Like that. So when I say F you too, he said, no, F you. And I said, no, F you. And at this point, I'm driving. He throws my car into park. When he throws my car into park, he just commenced to beating the crap out of me. So he's like punching me in my face and everything. And I'm like sitting behind the wheel of the car. So he's like hitting me, like full on, fist closed, full on in my face, just punching me in the face. And I'm trying to fight him back and I'm hitting him, but my licks ain't even phasing him or whatever. So as we're fighting in the car, now mind you, we're in the middle of the street because he done threw my car in the park. We're in the middle of the street. It's the middle of the night, and he is working me. So I'm like, as we're fighting, all of a sudden like I feel warm, I feel blood running down my face. So at this point, I throw my hands up like this, and I turned my head, and I was like, oh, because I'm like, I'm too pretty for him to be, he keep punching me in my face like that, and now I'm bleeding. So I did this, and when I did this, he just kept sticking me, just kept hitting me, and he was giving me body shots like on my right side, and he was like tagging me, and but I was eating them. I'm just taking them like whatever. Eventually you'll stop, right? So just as quick as he started hitting me, he just stopped and he sat back in the seat. And when he was done, I never cried out, I never screamed or nothing through the whole ordeal. And when it was all said and done, and I turned and I looked at him and I started laughing. And I was like, I was like, yeah, yeah. And I was like, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. You just gave me what I've been wanting on a silver platter. And you just served it up and gave it to me. I said, I hope that you enjoyed every lick. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you enjoyed it because you will pay for each and every lick you just gave me. You'll pay for it. I said, but once again, thank you. You gave me exactly what I wanted on a silver platter. Now I have an out. You just gave me an out. Now I can walk away and won't and can't nobody ever say that I did you wrong. You just gave me my out. And um, I said, and you do know I'm calling the police on you and you're going to jail. So I put the car, I put the car in, I tried to put the car in drive, but when he threw the car in park, he messed up the little thing. So the little gear shift thing was all messed up. It never was right again. It never told you when you were really in drive or where you were. So put the car, get it in drive, and we're driving. And I'm like, and he said, I said, say, don't you ever speak to me again. I am done. It is over. I've wasted years with you, and now I'm done. And he was like, "You there go the police right there. Why don't you call them over?" I was like, "That's all right. I'm good. I'm good." I said, "I don't need the police. I'm good." So we get to the house. When we get to my house, I walk in and I tell my son, um, I called for my son. Now, at this point, my oldest son wasn't living with us anymore. And he was like 13 at that time. He wasn't living with us. He had decided that he could no longer live in the house with that man. He was like, I can't stand him. I don't want to be here. I'm leaving. He didn't even ask me could he leave. He just told me, I'm leaving. I'm going to my granny's. And he called my mom and he was like, Granny, I don't want to live here no more. Can I come and stay with you and grandpa? And my mom was like, come on. So he ended up with my mom. And he stayed with my mom and he started his seventh grade year with my mom. So I only had my other three kids. And so I called for my second son. And when he came out and he was like, what happened to your face? You're bleeding. What's going on? What happened to you? And I was like, don't worry about it. I'm fine. I'm okay. I was like, I just need you to get your sister and your brother dressed so we can go. And he was like, where are we going? And I was like, we're gonna leave for the night. And I said, just go get them up and get them dressed. And he was like, okay. So he went to go get my kids dressed. And at the time, I was doing daycare for a friend of mine. So I had called my friend and I said, um, and I had left her a message because she didn't answer the phone. Of course, she's not going to answer the phone. It's the middle of the night. So by this time, it's probably like 2 2:30 in the morning, something. I don't know, maybe later than that. So I called her and I left her a message and told her, that I had a emergency and don't bring the baby. And so as I'm in the house making my phone call and trying to get things situated, and I get off the phone and he comes in the door and he's like, he's standing at the foot of my door because I had told him when we were in the car driving, I said, um, I want you out of my house. And he said, um, I'll I'll get out your house. Um, but you just give me my vehicle and my kids, and I'll leave. And I said, see, that's where you're wrong. First of all, this vehicle, you may have paid for it, but it's in my name. Your name is nowhere on this car, period. So technically, it belongs to me. Secondly, you only have you only have legal rights to one of them kids, and that's the baby boy. I was like, your name ain't nowhere on her birth certificate, anywhere. So fight me, cause you have no legal grounds to stand for nothing. Everything in this house belongs to me. Everything is in my name. So he was like, so I said, you can get out of my house when I come back tomorrow. Don't be here. And I snatched his keys and I took his house key off his ring, and then I had my wedding ring and I took it off and I threw it at him. And that wedding ring sat in the floor of my car for months. I, I it was just in the front floor, and I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't pick it up. I cannot tell you what happened to that ring. Just one day, I got in my car and it was gone. So, but I was like, so that night I packed my kids up and I left and I went to my girlfriend's house. And the next day when I got home and I walk in and I'm like, I see he just destroyed my house. He threw, I had a L shaped computer desk. He threw like my computer desk across the room, destroyed my computer, um, destroyed like broke crystal glasses, all in the baby bed and all in my room, and tearing up lamps and just acted a fool, turning couches and everything. He had just had a field day in there. And when I went in my kitchen, I saw that all the medicine bottles were out of the cabinet, and all that was there was the tops. Like, it was just tops, medicine bottles. Because, mind you, I was a diabetic. I had multiple things going on. I was taking insulin. Well, at this point, I wasn't taking insulin anymore. I was just on other medications. I was on a lot of medications at one point in time. And then the baby was on a lot of medications because of his heart condition. And then he was on medications because he's a diabetic, high blood pressure, all of that stuff. So all of those pills and things, all the pills were gone. The pill bottles were gone. Just the tops were there. And I was like, well, what the heck happened? What did he do? So I was like, where's this fool at? So I think I called his sister and was like, have you talked to your brother? And she's like, no, da 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 da. And then I was like, because I put him out and I don't know where he at, but I know it's pill bottles gone and all this stuff. So a little later on, I get a phone call and um, I'm being told that he's actually in ICU at Regent's Hospital. So I'm like, he in ICU, and they like, yeah, he tried to commit suicide. So I was like, So they were like, he's asking for you or whatever. So I end up going up there to I go up there to, who is this? I'm sorry, y'all. So I go up there, and when I get up there, he's got all these tubes and stuff in his nose and all of that and everything, and they got him all hooked up, whatever, whatever. So I walk in and I'm like, was it worth it? Was it worth it? And he's like, no. And I'm like, you just flushed our whole entire life together down the drain. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it because you'll never get another chance to do me in. So, um, I also told him, I said, and for future reference, um, if you really want to kill yourself, I'll tell you how to kill yourself. I said, as much liquor, because at this point I wasn't in church anymore. I was like, as much liquor as I have in that house. I was like, all you had to do was get you a glass of vodka and all them pills that you took, wash them down with a glass of vodka, and lay down and go to sleep. But if you really wanted to kill yourself, you don't run around calling people. Because he called everybody and their mom. And my mom. He called everybody. Um, his ex, one of his little ex-girlfriends that I'm pretty sure he was probably still sleeping with. Um, my mother, my mother and my father. Um, one of his church members, somebody, just, yeah. But if you really want to kill yourself, you don't call people, you just do it. So that is what ended our relationship. Now, at that point, we had only been married for like four, about 4 years, almost 5 years. And we we were technically together, well, technically married until 2006. So we were married for 6 years, but we really only spent about 4.5 years in the same house. Um, we have since, we're in a better space. We do have two lovely children, a daughter and a son together. Um, we had to learn to co-parent, but I never had like real hatred for him or animosity for him. He did pay for, when I said you're going to pay for everything you did, for every lick you gave me, he paid. Um, and he paid dearly because he went years of, just hard times. And after me and him broke up, he lost his job. He had no vehicle because I had the vehicle. He was living from place to place because he had nowhere to live, sleeping on people's sofas. Um, but like I told him, nothing good's gonna come to you for all the crap that you did to me, for everything you put me through. You put me through hell, and for what? And come to find out, the reason all of this stuff went down is he had started seeing this other lady that went to his church. Not the first one. He did finally confess to me after we broke up that he had been having an affair with her um, for years throughout our marriage. He was having an affair with that woman when I knew for a fact that he was, and he was lying about it. But he finally admitted to me that he was having an affair with her, and then he had started having an affair with this other lady um, from the church, and she was, I guess, he thought she was better than me. Um, her butt was bigger than mine. He liked big butts, and he cannot lie. So she had a big old butt, and he wanted it. And I guess that drove him over the edge. I don't know. Um, but he tried to pick that fight with me all week, all weekend, and I wouldn't take the bait until that last night, and then he jumped on me, and I was like, you will never get another chance to do me in, and that was the end of it. But like I said, me and him we have a decent relationship now. Um, just was in his presence last week, due to the passing of his daughter, his oldest daughter, and that's my boy. That's my friend. He's my friend. I know I can always count on him. Um, if I need him, he's gonna come running. So, but that's all it will ever be. Is he will I will always have love for him. Um, I love him in spite of, because of my children. Probably the is the biggest reason. Um, my kids love their dad, and it is what it is. And I know that I can count on him if I need him. So, um, but that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. But once again, I'm telling these stories, probably as a therapy for myself, but also so women that go through things and have these men that mistreat you, and you feel like you can't get out, you feel like it's the end of the world, um, and you may feel like giving up, because there were many times that I felt like giving up, many times that I felt like checking out of here. But I know that I got my kids depend on me. And whenever I thought about things like that, I had to continue to say to myself, if you off yourself, if you decide to check out of here, who gonna take care of these kids? You gonna leave these kids with this man? He's not stable. He's not responsible enough to be a full time. And my other kids, they got to go live with my mama and my daddy. And I was like, ooh, and I don't wish that on nobody. Not to live in the house with my daddy, even though he gone now. But back then, Lord Jesus, I was like, I don't wish that on my kids, to have to be raised with that man. So just know that you can get over and get through. And you can always walk away. You ain't stuck. You ain't stuck, and you can get through anything. So I thank you guys for listening to my story. I know it was long. I know it was long, and I'm sorry. But like, share, and subscribe. I got more. I got more stories coming. Um, as I stated before, this is a series of my men, and the abuses and things that I have taken from these men. So if you enjoy listening to my life story, come on and check me out again. Once again, this is Queen Renee, and you all have a lovely evening. Bye.